Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Film Fan Club Show. I am Sam Carrico, and I'm happy to report that Star Wars is saved. It's been 3 years since the last theatrical Star Wars film. The sequel trilogy's profits were essentially cut in half from Episode 7 to Episode 9. The critical reviews went from amazing to mid, and the fan reaction to Episode 9 was a franchise low. So what got announced at Star Wars Celebration this year? A Rey Skywalker movie, of course! It appears that the future really is female for this franchise, and this spin-off will pick up 15 years after Rise of Skywalker, with the Jedi Order in disrepair as Rey struggles to rebuild it. You heard right, we're now 45 years after Luke defeated Palpatine on the second Death Star, and the Jedi Order is still in disrepair. We're off to a great start. The next movie announced, though, really does go back to the start. At Celebration, James Mangold was brought out as the director about a movie featuring the origin of the Jedi in the first person to wield the Force. Now, this is a promising concept. The last movie I saw by James Mangold was Logan, and that was fantastic. A great character study, more reserved than your typical blockbuster. If we get that James Mangold, I can't wait. That being said, his next movie coming out is Indiana Jones 5. And if that's on the same level of quality as Indiana Jones 4, I don't want him anywhere near it. Speaking of people I don't want anywhere near Star Wars, Dave Filoni is getting his own live-action film. Word on the street is that his movie will tie up the plot threads from Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and the Ahsoka Tano show, but at this point, I'm fully expecting the bulk of it to just be an inconsequential side quest, which brings us to Season 3 of Mandalorian. I mentioned in Part 2 of my Star Wars video essay that I enjoyed Season 1, but thought Season 2 was a huge step down. It seemed like after the initial arc of saving Baby Yoda from the Empire, the show didn't know where to go, so it just became the Star Wars cameo show, constantly taking detours to reintroduce cartoon characters like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano. I was further discouraged when the events of the Season 2 finale, Baby Yoda leaving Mando to go with Luke, were undone in Book of Boba Fett, not even the same show. I'm so pleased, though, that while it may not reach the heights of the first few episodes of Season 1, I found Season 3 to be a huge step in the right direction. That's mostly because we get an actual story this season. Going in with the knowledge that Mando is on a quest to redeem himself, I was just waiting for the inevitable side quests and detours that would prolong that arc for the whole season. But I was really relieved when he's redeemed by the end of Episode 2. I didn't know what to expect next, but then the show subverted my expectations in the best way possible with Episode 3. This is by far my favorite episode from the season, probably because it felt closer to the quality of a show like Andor. In doing so, Episode 3, and then the larger third season, answered several questions I've had since the beginning. How did the galaxy get here from Return of the Jedi, and how will it get to the political landscape of The Force Awakens? While forced at times, I appreciated the attempts at world building, but the second half of the season is where things start to falter for me. It's almost like the show knew that it finished Din Djarin's storyline too soon, so it returned to the side quests I hated so much. The worst of which is the infamous episode featuring Lizzo and Jack Black. Here we get everything I hate about this show. Cheap sets, unnecessary cameos, and terrible writing. When he's not doing side quests, the second half of this season has him playing second fiddle to Bo-Katan. Beta! I'm kidding, but who doesn't love a passive protagonist? Bo's quest to retake Mandalore ultimately brings them to a rematch with Moff Gideon, a villain who's already been defeated twice now and somehow can't figure out cloning, even though Palpatine was doing that 30 years ago. So while this season is better than expected and really starts off strong, it falls into the same traps that really leave me feeling unsatisfied. Baby Yoda is cute, though. Alright, and joining me now to share his reaction to my monologue and his own thoughts on everything Star Wars, including, of course, Season 3 of The Mandalorian, video editor Alex McKellar is here. Hey, Alex, looking sharp?
Hey, Sam. How you doing?
I'm doing much better now that we're done with that monologue. So what do you think, though? I want to ask, just hearing my thoughts on Mandalorian. I think it's better than Season 2, not quite as good as the beginning of Season 1.
Okay.
But still, you know, just those same problems continue to persist. So what are your thoughts on The Mandalorian thus far and then Season 3 now that it's over?
So, I don't know, Mandalorian, kind of like you, Season 1 won me over. It was like a little bit of a slow burn at the beginning. Like, I was enjoying it, but eventually it won me over. So I guess, like, fun Alex experience watching Star Wars media. I still hadn't watched Book of Boba Fett, so Season 3 starts as we're preparing for this, and I'm like, whoa, do I not watch Season 2? Like, why? I thought Baby Yoda was with Luke, And like, I'm kind of confused, but I was like, but I got to do this for Sam. So I'm just going to power through. I'll watch a recap later and figure out what I got confused on. You know, don't want to spend like 5 days watching 3 seasons of the show. But so yeah, so a little confused going into it. Thought I didn't remember season 2. Turns out I did. I just didn't remember stuff that I hadn't seen in the book of Boba Fett. So yeah, so I watched season 3 and then I watched the recap and found out, yeah, all of the little plot points that happened in Book of Boba Fett, why Grogu's back with Mando and some of the other things going on that left me just being like, man, I guess it all fell out of my brain. But yeah, so season 2 for me was fine, I guess. You know, I don't remember having any overly strong opinions of it. Probably liked it better than I liked the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Which is like a very, very low bar, you know.
Right,
the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is horrible.
Exactly. And I haven't watched, because like any like the Bad Batch or any of the animated ones that have been in between. So, you know, my knowledge of the Star Wars lore is definitely still hit and miss. But as far as season 3 goes, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy sort of once, you know, just letting aside that I was confused why Grogu was back. Those first 2 episodes, I did enjoy the like him having to go back to Mandalore, checking out the planet, you know, and then doing I still am a big fan of like the extreme cults, like hardcore religion around these things, you know, the having to go to the waters, and especially that being paired up with Bo-Katan and her, you know, them being more relaxed, you know, not as fundamentalist Mandalorians, like, and her being like, it's not cursed, it's not, you know, the water has no magic powers, it's just there. That was stuff I enjoyed, you know, bringing out that like fantasy element of the sci-fi fantasy show, or well, series that Star Wars is. But then episode 3, like you said, I think that was one of my favorite episodes. I was having to go back since I binge watched it to see which ones were which, but that's the one with the scientists, you know, and the
I should have clarified in my monologue that's an episode that's not even about the Mandalorian.
Right? Yeah, you get a
episode of the Mandalorian.
A little bit of Mandalorian in the beginning and a little bit at the end, which I enjoyed both of those moments as well, that like bookend. But yeah, definitely enjoyed that whole, like, just seeing the scientists, seeing like the rehabilitation program the New Republic was offering, you know, watching even some of the other ex-Imperial officers like be nostalgic for certain little things from their Empire days, you know, even though they're disowning the Empire, whether that's genuine or they're doing it because they're trying to fit in. None of that mattered to me too much, because I'm sure it was a mix of all of it for those.
Exactly.
Considering those people real. But yeah, that whole thing. And then the girl still working for Moff Gideon as like a super deep cover spy was rad. Even though like saw it coming a mile away, I enjoyed that whole like arc. Yeah, like, you know, that's the type of thing where I'm like, I'm glad they didn't try to like do a double bluff, where it's like, I'm like, you know, it was fun knowing that she was evil and then seeing how that played out with this whole thing.
Did you notice the haircut that she had? That character had?
Yeah.
I'm tired of this haircut. People associating it with people on that side of the aisle. I don't appreciate it.
Sam Carrico.
Yeah, I know. I was like watching it. I was like, she has my haircut. I don't appreciate being associated with this kind of behavior. That's
you're like, I do not work for Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
I'm not a baddie. But yeah.
And then how did you feel about Moff Gideon in his larger storyline? I didn't really touch on that in my monologue, other than he's bad at cloning, even though that's been around for 30 years. His whole thing is like, I want to figure out how to clone people. I'm like, bro.
Yeah. I know that one's weird, because it's like, I'm not sure if it's because like only that one like long-necked race on the Aqua Planet was like the only ones that could do cloning.
The ruling council on Kamino, led by Dr. Nalase.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I don't know if they're like, I mean, I know, so, you know, in the weird mixed up lore that I am aware of, apparently Palpatine's been cloning himself since the beginning of time or something, is what we maybe learned in Force Awakens. But then we were making clone soldiers, which is like a different offshoot. So like cloning technology is sort of a thing that exists, but maybe is more difficult. I liked that he was trying to do something different than just making clones. Like, he's trying to make a better version of himself, like make a force sensitive version. Like, he's like stealing all these different like good bits from different races to make himself like the ultimate Ubermensch. I'm sure someone online knows exactly what is hard about cloning and what is easy and why Moff Gideon was doing it in secret and all of that stuff. Which also I love that he's like just he's not like the top dog in the Empire Shadow Council, but he's definitely like I'm gonna wipe out all of you as soon as I can, sort of thing. Like that whole bit with like a young Hux and the other generals where he's like just one of the guys there as they're discussing for resources. You just get the sense that he's like, oh, I'm not obsessed with cloning. That's your thing. I just need some reinforcements to deal with these Mandalorians. But it's really, you're like, oh no, he's going to just take over everything and wipe y'all out as well. So, I mean, aside from like, I think you mentioned like he's already been beaten twice and you get to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, that did bug me a little bit, that he kept like he's just kept not dying, him escaping and being rescued after Mando let him live. Like, that's fine. But yeah. And then coming back. But at the same time, it's like his like presence as a villain was diminished, even though
by the end of season 2, I'm like, I'm not really intimidated by you anymore.
Right. Yeah. And they didn't, even with his like super Beskar armor and his like the robot sounds when he's punching, it wasn't, I wasn't there because I was like, oh, we're finally defeating one of the best villains. I was more there having a good time because I'm like, man, I really like watching Bo-Katan, Grogu, and Mando like work together. Like I love it when like groups work together to overcome the challenge as opposed to just. I mean, well, I also love it when like someone's like really strong. I love a lot of things about cinema, but I enjoyed that aspect of it. I especially enjoyed sort of skipping over a couple episodes just to get to like the things that I enjoyed the most. Was like the two groups of Mandalorians, them coming together. I enjoyed that a whole lot, but I'm I'm a sucker, especially for like groups with bad blood coming together to like in a liberation adjacent like storylines, like them reclaiming the planet of Mandalore. I was like, oh yeah, good for y'all. I'm happy. Way to go, Bo-Katan and the crew.
I make a joke in the monologue about how it is unfortunate that Mando. Oh, we're gonna put a pin in the discussion on the Empire because I have more to say about that. Thank God they did what they did with the Empire. I thought it was a lot. Thank God they answered all those questions. But I make a joke about Bo-Katan and Mandalorian playing second fiddle to her. But I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty hyped at the end of whatever. I think it was that horrible episode that I didn't like with Lizzo and Jack Black. But at the end of the side quest, after that, she has the fight with what's his name, and then
it's like Axe Wolf. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I think his name's Axe Wolf. He's cool.
And then she gets the sword, and everybody like kind of like bows to her. It reminded me of Game of Thrones whenever Daenerys takes the army or whatever, and everybody bows to her, and it was good imagery. I was hyped for Bo-Katan at the end of that episode. I was like, yeah, let's go take back Mandalore.
No, I mean, yeah, I enjoyed. I like that. Like Mando, like Din Djarin, or Mandalorian, the Mando guy, Pedro Pascal, like isn't trying to be the leader. I like that he's just very much like, I'm a bounty hunter. I'm gonna follow the code. I'm gonna care about Grogu, but like your quest is good, so I'm gonna help you out. Like him helping to save the town that Carl Weathers is in charge of. I don't remember all of the different names. Like that kind of stuff.
I believe it's Navarro.
Yeah, Navarro. Like all of that stuff I thought was good because he's like, it's like the Western. He's the gunslinger. He's like, I'm not here to be in charge. I'm not here to be the leader, but I support what you're doing. I'm going to be the man of violence that comes to the town that does the violence. And then I'm going to, take a step back because I don't live in the town that I create. That old sort of like Western trope, which, done with a somewhat fresh, Star Wars aesthetic and some different ideas going on. Yeah. So yeah, and I enjoyed, I think one meme I saw was like, boys flirting, and it was Anakin talking to Padme about how I hate sand. And then it was like men flirting, and he's like, your song is not yet written, but I'm here for while it is, to Bo-Katan. I was like, see, like, Mandalorian's a classy dude. He's just chilling. He ain't worried about a female being in charge. He's like, I'm just, I'm going to help you win. And then I'm going to go to my farm with my alien baby. That's older than I am.
He's the most, that's funny. He's the most honorable bounty hunter that I've ever seen, which makes me wonder, how did he ever get in the industry of bounty hunting? I don't understand. So he's like the nicest guy, and he doesn't ever do any bounty hunting. You know, a lot of people thought that this season was going to be, oh yeah, we're going to get back to bounty hunting. You know, and then Book of Boba Fett, which you didn't watch, is very funny. I've been waiting for this moment to meet somebody who had his like goes into season 3 of Mandalorian and is like, what is happening?
Yeah,
that's so funny.
That was me. I was like, wow, I really don't remember season 2 at all.
Yeah, because I was rewatching Mandalorian, but then for this discussion and to get into season 3, and I was showing it to somebody, and to get them ready for season 3, I had to be like, all right, now we have to go watch 2 episodes of Boba Fett, and they were like, why? Because they literally, I think the idea is that they just didn't have enough episodes of Boba Fett because Boba Fett was kind of rushed. And they just were like, all right, well, we're already kind of shooting season 3 of Mandalorian, so why don't we put the first couple episodes of season 3 of Mandalorian as like a backdoor pilot in Boba Fett, even though we already have a show that we're doing a backdoor pilot for. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So, it's very confusing, and this is the obvious repercussions of that. But we don't need to relitigate that. I had a bunch of things I wanted to say. I was very happy about the state of the Empire because one thing I had going from the first season into the second season was the Empire. We meet Werner Herzog, and is like the Imperial remnant is very like disheveled. They look all gross, and we kind of see Moff Gideon at the end, and it's like, oh, he's got more Imperial guys. And then by the time we get to season 2, it's just like it's the Empire is back, and I'm like, well, what happened with Luke's? You know, so then with this season, that one scene did so much for me. And because I'm a lore, a guy, I love the lore, so I just love that they include. I'm a lore head, I included that. I love that they included that scene where it's pretty rough exposition probably now that I'm thinking about it, but they show us the state of the galaxy. Like, what is the Empire doing? How did they come to this point since Return of the Jedi? And you also, like I mentioned in the monologue, you get the hints of where it's going. You can see it's like poetry. It rhymes. You see the stanzas of where it's going to go.
Exactly. It is interesting, like we've talked about for years as a culture, how we were confused at The Force Awakens. Like, wait, why now is the Empire like back? Or like, what is it? The First Order? Like, what is this? Why are they so powerful? Why do they have all these resources? And now we're like getting that filled in a way that like does work within the Mandalorian show. Like, I like the idea of the Outer Rim having like pockets of empire versus trying to new established states, because like the New Republic isn't big enough yet to like really go out there and have a presence. So you've got pirates, you've got the old empire people as like feudal lords, that kind of stuff. Like, all of that is cool. Wish we could have known about it earlier, but in 100 years this will all just be the canon. We're just living through the chaos of making it up right now.
And that's I'm just love that they have the opportunity to do that, because it even fixed a little bit of Rise of Skywalker. The only bit, and I hope they can square that circle with clones. That clone technology has existed for so long. So why is it like now, like we're just now figuring out? Because clearly the implication is that Moff Gideon, kind of revolutionizing clone technology will lead to Palpatine's return in Episode 9 is kind of the implication. And like you're saying, in the future, Disney, Lucasfilm is kind of hoping that we'll just watch it as one and just be like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, but
that's how it was always meant to be.
But how will they
weird train wreck?
Yeah, well, how will they square the circle of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones? I just don't. I still hope they can fix that.
I mean, feel free to take this, Disney. I'm just riffing right now, but like to me, it just seems that like the key point that is difficult is like maybe Palpatine can like through the Force, because he can summon an army of like Death Star destroyers or whatever, seemingly out of nowhere. So maybe he could have cloned himself through the Force, and like that creature, that new Palpatine clone, is Force sensitive, but maybe just growing a bunch of Boba Fett or Jango Fetts or whatever is that like you can't like add new things other than just like shorten their lifespan or whatever they did and put in Order 66 if that was like a genetic code thing, which I don't remember where that was supposed to line up. But so like I guess like the new thing that maybe they're trying to get to is like, yeah, it was difficult. Like the leap forward that this scientist guy was making was the ability to like CRISPR the genes to like give the clones Force abilities or other abilities. And like he was. I was hoping at some point they would finally say metachlorians again. I really wanted it to be brought up. I would. It would.
That's what they're injecting him with. I'm like,
Yeah,
what are you injecting him with?
Figuring out how to cultivate the metachlorians in the blood. Whatever. We all know metachlorians exist. George Lucas ruined Star Wars, but it's broken as it is. So let's just run with it. But yeah, so I was really hoping that would happen. So maybe that's the thing, and then that also potentially leads to their ability to create Snoke. So it's not a Palpatine clone. It's now a meat puppet controlled by the Force. That's Palpatine. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Do you think that that's where this will, like, do you think we'll get the literal creation of Snoke, or one of the first clones that is...
That's kind of what I'm thinking with seeing Hux. Maybe not in this. Maybe that'll be Ahsoka Tano or some other thing. But that's why I think we're bringing up that cloning stuff and Moff Gideon, and why we had to kill that scientist, so that the other people that Moff Gideon wanted to crush that are in the Empire didn't have access to the ability to give clones Force abilities. That's what I read with that kind of stuff. That's where I would assume they're going with it. It's like, we now need to explain where Snoke came from, even though for me that never mattered that much. But like, since we're doing all this deep lore,
I think Snoke is kind of like, I think this is more so to explain where Palpatine in Episode 9 came from, or do you think it's both?
Well, my understanding is that Palpatine, but I could be wrong. Palpatine in Episode 9 is Palpatine from Episode 6. He survived.
My understanding. Now we're litigating Rise of Skywalker.
I know. We're getting real deep lore nerd shit. I could be wrong. I know. Again, that's Star Wars, baby. I don't care. Yeah. I'm there for when it's fun and it's great. And then there's a lot of shit to slog through to get to those points. But yeah, sorry. No, let me know if I'm wrong about how.
Oh, my understanding is that since he looked like Ian McDiarmid, but just gross Ian McDiarmid, and not like disfigured Ian McDiarmid, it didn't look like Palpatine post, electrocuting Mace Windu. It looked like Senator Palpatine, his face in Episode 9 for the most of it, until he sucks the life force out of Rey. I assume. So,
and then he's like coming back.
So I assume it's a clone of Senator Palpatine. I don't understand. Right? Rise of Skywalker sucks. I have a whole video on why.
Sorry we keep getting derailed from. I mean, it's all connected.
It's all connected. It's very important, especially whenever they're trying to fix these things. When they're trying to use the show to retroactively be like, oh no, actually, this movie you hate makes sense.
Cool. Fine.
Yeah, if you say so. But you mentioned a couple things, Alex, that we talked about the things I like in this show. I like the Din Djarin getting redeemed storyline. I would even say I like the first 4 episodes, because the 4th episode had the cameo by Ahmed Best from Phantom Menace, who played Jar Jar in that movie, and then he plays the guy who rescues Baby Yoda in this show. And then the second half of the season devolves into things that I hate about the show, which is the side quests, literal side quests. And I want to give you 3 just right off the bat. Kid gets kidnapped by a pterodactyl. That's a side quest. Whole episode about it. I believe there's Jack Black and Lizzo. Whole episode about that. And there's one more side quest that I'm forgetting, and I can't remember.
Is that the saving Navarro from the pirates?
Yes, thank you. The pirates, because I thought we were going to get the pirates in Episode 1, and then they didn't really do. They had a little bit with the pirates, but then Episode 1 moved on, and we got an actual storyline. And I was like, oh my god, this is so refreshing. And then they go back later in the season, and then give us those 3 back to back: the pterodactyl, pirates, and then Jack Black, Lizzo. And I hated each of those episodes. And the worst one, not because of Jack Black and Lizzo, although they were horribly written characters and with bad performances. It's not just because of them, but also just because it was written like a bad Scooby-Doo episode, with Christopher Lloyd being like, he gets.
I love seeing Christopher Lloyd though, but mostly because I just love seeing Christopher Lloyd.
Absolutely, I would rather him be there than not be there.
I was like, oh my man, welcome.
But anyways, so those 3 side quests, what did you make of those things? Did you hate them as much as I did?
No, but again, I was kind of speed running the show, so I was like, let's get through this,
double speed.
Well, not quite that much, but I was just like, all right, let's go. I would say the one that bothered me least was probably the pirate one, since it was kind of like, we're setting up that like this Navarro's having trouble transitioning to being not like a bounty hunter pirate sanctuary. We have them at the beginning with the school, they run off. I love the captain's look, the like Muppet moss-faced dude. I thought that was great. That practical puppety thing was super awesome, and I liked that it was like they worked. I get why they were side quests. I get what you're saying. So it's like, Bo-Katan and Mando come back to the cohort and they're hiding out there, right? And then so we need something to ingratiate Bo-Katan to this group. Like she's gone in the water, so she's been baptized according to their thing. So like we need a reason for the rest of the tribe to trust Bo-Katan, right? Yeah. So a pterodactyl steals a kid. Contrived, and had been a problem apparently going on for a while, but is a fine enough thing for getting to the point of Bo-Katan becoming the person that can unite both groups, and the armorer saying, "You have walked both ways. You can unite us." So like that. It's like, so she earns their respect. The armorer sees she's earned their respect, and so now the armorer tells her, "You can take your helmet off and you can lead both groups. Like you don't have to be committed to our way. You can be from both tribes." Again, maybe we could have done a little bit better of a way other than random pterodactyl grabs a child.
I see what you're saying, though. It's at least in service of
like it worked for a plot points that they were setting up, which then that leads in to the next part where now we see with the pirates that they're all going to work together because they respect Mando again. Like that was like the second part of his redemption.
What was the second part of his redemption? He had to he had to bathe in the waters.
Right, that was for the armorer, but him earning the respect of that big guy with the minigun, Paz, whatever, was him saving that guy's son, right? Because they had to fight in Boba Fett for the Darksaber. So he was still like, oh, and like that speech where he's like, we helped this guy before, and many of us died for nothing. And then he gets to say, well, we're going to do it again because he saved my son and he's part of us, and we're going to help him rescue this area. This is the way. It's like that was good, and a resolution of whatever tension there was between Mando and the other Mando with the minigun. So like, again, so we get that, and then they help Navarro, which again continues the arc of like setting this up, giving the Mandalorians all a place to live. But then that needs to be moved on to go back to the planet of Mandalore. So it's like, it's a little clunky, I think. Like I don't think you're wrong to like not love those episodes, because I was kind of checked out while they were going on. Yeah. But like they were side quests, but they weren't as,
even while you were checked out, bad. You were able to pick on things that help make the arc kind of flow.
That was all the parts that I cared about. I was like, okay, we're doing this because of this reason. Yeah. What's happening in between those things is
I think the worst example, though, is the Lizzo Jack Black episode. And because, they literally go to them and say, hey, we need to talk to the Mandalorians outside of your base. And they're like, okay, you can only do this if you do this side quest for me. Yeah. It's literally, they verbatim say that.
That is for sure the weakest one, where it's like they're going to where they are. They can't land next to them because of a contrived reason.
Well,
and then they get put in a shuttle that won't let them go anywhere but right there. And then it's because of multiculturalism that they're allowed to have weapons that they can actually go and do something about the robots that are bad. Which, like, I get, kind of Scooby-Doo, kind of fun. For me, it was like, it was funny seeing Jack Black and Lizzo, which, like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I love Jack Black. I don't got anything against Lizzo. I love Christopher Lloyd. And if I was offered to be in a Star Wars episode, I would say yes.
I don't blame them for being, absolutely. I don't blame them for being, I blame the casting director.
I mean, like this just feels like the way the world works now. It's just people wanting like cameos or like little parts in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. Well, and it's because Disney wants Lizzo to post a TikTok of her on the set, And
it's blowing up. It's profiles. It's expanding. It's branding. It's all of this like gross corporate stuff that gets in the way of writing stories. But that's also the world we're living in. So like, I don't like it, but if we want to get rid of it, we should probably break up Disney as a corporation. Make smaller studios, not one thing that controls all. But, aside from that, my favorite part of the episode, which again is the weakest episode of the series. I'm not trying to like say it's a hidden gem, but I love the robot bar because of how like much of a paradox droids are in this universe. Like we get a New Hope where they don't serve droids in a bar, where it's like, why would you serve droids? They don't drink anything.
And then
And then
now,
now to finally like robo alcohol confirmed, and it's like there was like the Christopher Lloyd bought a batch that he could use to make them malfunction so that he could. I don't even remember why the episode was such a nothing
it
in
was
my
because
mind.
he was. I did enjoy this. He was a separatist. He,
Yeah, oh, that's right. He was a Count Dooku, bro. I
yeah,
loved that.
that
Yeah,
was
he
fun.
loved. Yeah,
Yeah, there was like a hint of
respect.
something of a little
Yeah,
bit of fun world building there, and I
the
did enjoy
old
the Blade
sticking
Runner.
together.
I did enjoy the Blade Runner meets iRobot kind of scene where he's running through the town chasing the super battle
Yeah,
droid from the
like
prequel.
it had fun moments, but yeah, like it was the most contrived side questy of them.
Lizzo and Jack Black were literally like NPCs, just doing a predetermined, arranged, like they're just in that one room, just walking around playing games the whole time. And if you go back to them and press A, you know,
welcome to our dinner. We have a task for you. Walk over here. You can have weapons because we've said so, even though we don't have weapons here. The army is not allowed to enter, which like, oh, that's fine. Whatever. You got a sci-fi world. It's got, it's a democracy. It's got all these other rules. It's all fine. And, spooky droids are acting up because Christopher Lloyd and Count Dooku, the parts of that episode were fun, but ultimately, yeah, it was just like, yeah, we need to get to talk to Axe and the gang. But we're gonna make that difficult for some reason because we don't have a whole episode out of this, and we want to get to 8.
The last thing I want to talk about before I get your kind of wrap up is Baby Yoda, of course. Love Baby Yoda. He's so fucking cute.
Oh yeah,
you can't not love him. He's a huge hype machine for this show, but how can he not be? It's
adorable in this episode, this season.
Oh my god,
running around, little floppy feet, like do 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 do.
Oh, don't make me jump to the things I hate. I'm trying to focus on the things I love real quick. I do know that he is like a conglomerate of like made in a machine or made in a lab by a machine, like by a bunch of executives. What is
weaponized cuteness?
Yeah, what is statistically the cutest thing we could think? Oh well, Yoda's popular. What if he was a baby? What if he had these big eyes, floppy ears? And I'm like, well, it works. He's so cute. And this season, though, did have a couple of moments for me that were a little bit meh as far as Baby Yoda goes. IG-11 as a mech suit for Baby Yoda in a mech suit is a weird.
Oh, you didn't like that?
He's a weird concept. I think I was so relieved whenever that went away. I think it gets destroyed, and then they bring back IG-11 like properly, like as a security droid, and I appreciate that. I was really worried that we were going to just from now on, Baby Yoda was going to be in a mech suit, and I didn't quite. It really really stretched thin my suspension of disbelief by having that baby not operate a whole machine and run around and then be thrown into these like very dangerous situation. Like the Mandalorian should be accused of child endangerment legal, in a court of law because like he does. I mean, I know
he adopted him, but the guy Baby Yoda's older than he is.
I guess that's an interesting point, but he did adopt him. He's his guardian now. So I think the moment he adopted him, I'd be like, all right, you're going to jail. Like, but
child endangerment in the Wild West of space.
And then another thing is they had Praetorian guards. As a Last Jedi hater, I was like, fuck seeing them, but also let's see what they do with them. They bring them in and have them kill off a long-standing character, should make them badass, intimidating even. And I was like, wow, okay. Next episode, they go after Baby Yoda, and he is able to run around on a like a, what is it? Like a ceiling,
like a light, it's like a ceiling light thing. Yeah,
thank you. And outrun 3 Praetorian guards for like what felt like 15 minutes before he's out. What? Yeah, and that's what drives me nuts is him just run, and then they had him flipping. I guess that's what they did. They did Chekhov's Baby Yoda flipping throughout the whole season, where he would get excited and jump. And I bet that's what they were doing. They're like, "See, you can't say that's dumb because he did it before." And it was a little cringe every time he did it. But now they had him just flipping around. And so, what did you make of Baby Yoda's my cringe? What do you make of my cringe moments for Baby Yoda? IG-11 and the flipping.
Well, it's IG-12 when Baby Yoda drives it, so get your shit together, bro. Sorry. No, I had a similar thing where I was like, well, this is kind of weird that we're just putting him in there. But then, like, giving him the ability to say yes and no, like, ended up, I felt like getting used well in the show.
Yeah,
at certain points.
I thought it was so funny that for the first like 5 minutes, but then when they threw him in the action sequences, I was like, all right, this is a little much.
Well, so then when he breaks up the fight between Axe and Paz on the ship, I
Yeah,
liked that a whole bunch. That was
yeah,
great. I
that
was
was
like,
sweet.
ah, yeah. I was like, this is thank you. This I get why we have this robot now. Even though it didn't bother me too much. Also, real quick, connected to that, I love that we have the Babu Fricks family in this. They're like the best part of the Rise of Skywalker, and they're
And
out
then,
there, ho ho, fiction droids.
well, and
Love
then
them.
them interacting with Baby Yoda this
Yeah,
season, they're like, "No, bad baby."
yeah, bad baby. It's so good, it's so silly. I absolutely adore it. But
Oh.
also weaponized cuteness. But again, it works. I can't. I'm not a machine. I'm not a droid. I was
And the balls on Disney acknowledging Rise of Skywalker, you know. I mean, again, they clearly
yeah.
don't have, with them announcing a Rey movie, they clearly don't understand the reaction that fans had to that trilogy, but whatever. Balls on them
Yeah,
acknowledging it, though.
yeah. It's. I mean, I feel like the only thing that's not touchable is Metachlorians and Jar Jar, like explicitly. Like it's the Lucas stuff. Like they got to own what they've made. But either way, so all of that, and then
The flipping.
yeah, the flipping. So like him, Grogu having to fight the Praetorian guards, like that had like I have two things with that. One, it was cool to see that their armor was Beskar. That's why like they were so tough. Like seeing that mixed in there. I
Oh,
don't know if that had been talked about before elsewhere, but I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. That's why they're sort of extra tough because they actually have the Beskar armor on. And it kind of reminded me of like John Wick Chapter 3 when like the tables SWAT men come in and he's got to like shoot them back so he can get to a killing blow and like
yeah.
Mando fighting like that. I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. Done better in John Wick, but like the subtle bits of watching him struggle, like shooting them in the armor to then disorient them to get like a killing strike on them. I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm okay with this. But I wasn't as put off by him flipping around in the fights with the Praetorian Guards after IG-11 gets cut up by their laser static swords or whatever those things are. They're fake lightsabers. Because I was like, yeah, we're a show that is for the child in all of us, and we're having a little bit of goofs right now with little baby Yoda, using his force here and there. But what I did like as after he gets out of the suit was when like Mando, and Bo Katan were all fighting to stop Moff Gideon. Because I thought that was a good like arc for Grogu not being afraid of Gideon anymore, and like them working together with his little force pushes to like get stuff out of the way, and then saving them from the fire with a force bubble. Like it's like one, it works as showing that yeah, he's Grogu's getting better with the force even though he's not training with Luke, and two, like he's coming into his own and like believing in himself even as a like 80-year-old toddler at this point or whatever he's supposed to be. We're seeing the footsteps of where Yoda learned how to fight Count Dooku, and flip around and do all that crazy lightsaber shenanigans that he does in the prequels, because George Lucas thought it was a good idea for the strongest force user to have a little tiny lightsaber sword and not actually be a cripple, have that be a goof and do a bunch of ridiculous acrobatics. And so because that exists, now we see Grogu doing the same things.
Well, I did actually. Picking up on that. Actually, I did think that was. I got the echoes of that as well. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, we really are just like it's so many years, and that kind of speaks to to a larger thing about now, where we can reference the prequels, we can reference
Mm-hmm.
Yoda jumping around and fighting Count Dooku, we can have super battle droids and original battle droids, and even with Rise of Skywalker, it's kind of like, well, it's fun that we can embrace the bad parts of Star Wars, even like with
Oh
bringing in
yeah.
Babu Frick from Rise of
Whoa.
Skywalker, and or one of
Babu
the
Frick was not a bad part.
no, but like,
No, I
yeah,
know.
but one
I'm
of
just
the
goofing.
better
Yeah.
parts of a bad movie, I say. I
Yeah.
guess we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex, it seems like overall, I mean, I liked the first. I think this is one of the better seasons. I still think the
Mm-hmm.
best of Mandalorian is probably like the first 3 episodes, but I would say the first 4 episodes of this season were a huge, step in the right direction. I
Yeah.
want to know what you think, though. Would you recommend? But again, for the second half, for me, season kind of took a step back. I want to know what you think, though. Would you recommend this season? And I guess there's 2 ways. Would you recommend it to somebody who doesn't like Star Wars anymore? And would you recommend it to somebody who, thought the first 2 seasons were fine?
Definitely. If you thought the first two seasons were fine, yeah, give it a watch. There's good stuff. I mean, I feel like if you thought the first two seasons were fine, you've probably already seen it because you're obsessed with Baby Yoda and live your life. You know, don't let me dull your sparkle with any of my thing. Like, have your cake and eat it too. That's totally fine. If you are tired of Star Wars, I mean, I don't know. You might like some of this. Like, there's definitely Star Wars is one of those things at this point now that I feel like I've just made peace with. Like, some of it's going to be bad, some of it's going to be good. And I do still find myself enjoying spending time in this universe. Like, I think the brightest spot of the shows, and I think you agree, is Andor. Even with my problems with Rogue One, I really liked the show Andor. I thought that was like pretty solid from beginning to end. And I'm glad that I watched it all in one go. I think I can see where some people thought it was a bit slow, some of those middle episodes after the first climax, but Andor's great. This is I would say a solid season. Like, I'm not as down on the side quest episodes as you are, but I do get how they feel side questy. You know, I don't think that's like an incorrect read of what's happening. It's like we've got these beats we want to get to, so we're gonna do little self-contained stories along the way. Which Mandalorian, the first season, I feel like kind of did because they had that like prison rescue one, which I get all connected to that bigger overlying arc. And I think the first season does that a little bit better. This one, it's slightly more subdued. That overlying arc of really this being about bringing the two tribes together and then rescuing Mandalore. Mandalore. That's what I was like. What did I say? That's not right. But then
you mixed that with the show Andor.
Yeah. Andor, Mandalore, whatever. And the big monster under the water was cool. And my favorite part that has come from this, I don't know if you saw it. Do you watch Arlenauts on YouTube?
No.
Arlenauts? Okay, so they made a song, and it's a bop. It's good, of all of the "This Is the Ways" said through the first 3 seasons. And so I'll send you a link after this. But it's a fun time. People should check it out. It's very short because it is as a song, and it's such a bop. It's such a banger. And like, so I am here all day for Disney to make whatever they want, if only to keep Arlenauts making Star Wars parody content. Because the show they made about Obi-Wan called Larry was fantastic. Their redubs of the prequels where C-3PO is like a sociopath, like murdering people to get skin, like he's on a giant quest just to get skin from Anakin because he was promised it, is dark and hilarious. So Disney, make whatever you want. Embrace the bad ideas, the good ideas, because Arlenauts will make content that I will endlessly consume and enjoy. So that's what I recommend, is watch this stuff, but then also go check out their channel because it's hilarious.
Alex McKellar, I appreciate you always reminding me of the things that I like about Star Wars, and then even, making me like some things like the side quest episodes that I didn't like, making me like those a little bit more. So Alex McKellar, thank you for doing that, and thank you for joining the show.
Anytime. Absolutely. Happy to be here.
All right, and I hope you'll watch our video essay, Why I Hate My Favorite Franchise, A Star Wars Story. Alex McKellar was the co-editor on part 1. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Both parts are now on YouTube. I've been Sam Carrico, guys. If you want to find me on the various social media sites, you can find me at Samuel D. Carrico on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at The Film Fan Club on Facebook and TikTok. But of course, I really just hope that you subscribe here on YouTube. We'll be back in a couple of weeks talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'll see you then. Thanks.